So if anybody's ever watched anything on my channel before or seen anything that I do, you'll know that I mostly drive beat up old trucks. Sometimes not beat up, but always old. Most of my vehicles are from 1978. Let's put it that way. So when I rented this, it was a little bit of a culture shock stepping into it for the first time. Yeah, I've driven some newer vehicles and things, but nothing this new. This is brand new. I only got 30,000 miles on it. It's a rental. Had to rent it. Didn't have much of a choice, but that's another story. Anyway, my feeling is in general that car reviewers, car magazines, our websites don't give honest reviews for several reasons. One reason is they're being paid. Another reason is they can't give honest reviews because they don't remember where we've come from. They get used to driving these new things and they don't remember what used to exist, and that can be bad for several reasons. One is sometimes old things were better designed and we've gone backwards, and they don't realize it and they don't know, so they can't give an honest review on that. So I figured I would give a old man rants the cloud style review on this new truck that I ended up renting for about a week. So that's a decent amount of review time for something like this, I think. Probably more time than some car reviewers actually give cars. So I figured we'd take a look at it, and maybe it'll interest some people and probably make some people mad at me for what I'm going to say about this truck. So let's take a look. So let's take a look at this ridiculous exterior. You can see the front, and this probably contributes to the real good gas mileage we got. We got like 24 miles per gallon. That's great, especially considering it's a 5-liter V8 under the hood that has, you know, a really good amount of power. I like the drivetrain, don't get me wrong. But things like this, okay, you know, the bumper's plastic, then it's got this shield down here. You don't have that much room between the ground for ground clearance. So they can advertise all the ground clearance they want for this thing and put it up in the air and make it look special and beefy and everything, but at the end of the day, it's not, because that's the lowest point on your truck. Unless you take that off, you're going to be hitting stuff. So you can have all the ground clearance you want back here, but it's kind of pointless. Again, this is a sport truck. I don't know, I'm sure the 4-wheel drive and the others are, you know, higher off the ground, and maybe they don't have that, but it's just another ridiculous feature to pretend to give the illusion that this thing is, you know, a truck, and it's not. Running boards, yeah, they're fancy, they're great. You know, again, lowers your ground clearance. As a sport truck, you know, they look nice, they help you step up in, sure. I mean, if you really need running boards and assists, you know, to get up into the truck, then maybe don't buy a truck. 20-inch wheels, absolutely ludicrous. Waste of money. All of the wheels and tires they put on trucks these days are a waste of money. It's just for looks. It's to give an illusion of something that's better or different than it is, and I don't get the people that waste money on wheels and tires. It's all looks. Form follows function, and that is just form, nothing to do with function. In my opinion, it actually reduces functionality from several areas. These tires are more expensive, they cost more. If you blow one, get a screw or something in one, you got to pay more to replace it. Same if you damage one of these expensive alloy wheels, more to replace, etc., etc. All the usual arguments on that. I'm sure I'm beating a dead horse on that. Tailgate, there's no mechanical way to lower this tailgate. You got to press this button 2 times and it lowers with its special hydraulic assist or whatever it's got in there. That more things to break. Very high off the ground. You can see this is about at my waist height. All trucks are that way, so you know that's not really a complaint. That's just this is the state of the truck industry these days. Has some nice clamp features here. Those are nice. I don't know if they just rip out if you ever tried to use them for actual straps. Got some strap points in there, got a bed liner, all that fancy stuff, got an outlet. All these things are usual in trucks today, and well, not really necessary and just adds to the cost. I think this is a factory liner from what I've seen on the literature for this truck. Back window looks much more bigger than it is. It's actually very, very small. We get to the interior section, I'll show you what it looks like in the rearview mirror, and you know, between the headrests and the seat that comes up in front of the mirror and the ceiling that comes down and the things that come in from the sides, very little actual window space. That is an illusion. Again, half this truck is made for looks, not function, which I don't appreciate. Just adds extra money to things that wouldn't have to be there. I'm sure that extra big piece of glass that is completely useless does, you know, add a few dollars to the truck down the road and all the F-150s around it, and makes them less affordable for people who actually need a truck. As far as getting up in here, there's no assist, there's no steps, there's no... And this is a modern truck. This is supposed to be a modern, good design, 2023 nice truck. They could have easily done what Chevy did and put a step in here. This 6 inches would make a huge difference just for me. 6 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're trying to swing your leg up there, it really is. You've got the step in the middle, that's great, but you can't use it when the tailgate's down. For a modern truck, this is very acceptable for an old truck like this. That's fine. I didn't do things like that. Just added extra cost. But when you're buying something like this, spending the extra money for what supposedly are luxury features and things like that, I mean, is it really that hard to put a cutout in the bumper to stick your foot in? If Chevy can do it, is all I'm saying. It's not hard, guys. But again, this isn't really, you know, a work truck. It just wants to have the illusion of being a work truck, which is the same for these tiny little springs. There's just like one spring with a fatter overload. Kind of ridiculous. I really doubt that this thing can practically haul much weight. I'm sure it's rated to haul some, but yeah, not much. Door seals and everything are fantastic. There's no wind noise, there's no rattles, there's no squeaks and bangs even after 30,000 miles. So that's one thing I have to give Ford props for. It drives wonderfully, it rides wonderfully, but caveat, most modern vehicles are that way. It's now expected. You got double door seals, you know, triple door seals if you count the one in here. You know, you got special acoustic glass, all the things that go along with that. The 500 cup holders and bells and whistles and electric windows and all those things. You know, more handles that are going to get dirty, extremely dirty and hard to clean because of the texture and the lack of smoothness. And these creases are going to fill with dirt. Back seat, it folds up really nice. You know, lots of room there. I got to give Ford props for what they did there. Power inverter is very accessible. I like that. That's good design, guys. I appreciate that. There are some things that I do like about this truck and some well-designed things, but this B-pillar, way too big. Tremendously big, reduces visibility. It's a liability, but they have to do that because they got to get all these seals and everything in here to keep that wind noise down. I'm sure there were compromises and things, just like this huge A-pillar. There's design compromises going on in here, and I understand that, don't get me wrong. But there's things like that shifter that are unforgivable and idiotic, and I can't overlook, that are not design considerations at all, but they put it in like purely for looks. And I just want to emphasize this shifter is weak plastic piece of junk, and it's stupid. Just put it on the column where it belongs. Most of this interior, other than the doors and the door seals and the pillars that were design oriented, and they were making compromises on that, well, everything from here inward, that's the realm of somebody who didn't really know what they were doing designing an actual truck. So that's all I'm saying. Oh, and for those of you who are saying in my short when I did this shifter that this is supposed to have a workstation that folds down over top of this, I mean, not that I've found yet. This is, you know, part of the hinge, so this can't fold down and this doesn't fold up. And so if you're saying this has some kind of workstation that folds out flat over here, well, it doesn't. Unless I'm completely missing something there. So I just want to add on this whole center console shifter ridiculous thing. I went back and I did some research, and Some of them seem to have this that folds this way over top of the shifter and makes a flat workstation. I got nothing here. This one, it doesn't do it. Let's say it did. You fold your shifter down, you fold this flat, you have a workstation. Where'd your cup holders go? What about all the stuff you keep in here, your drink that's in the way, or the stuff that your significant other piled in here? The problem is the people doing these reviews and saying, and telling Ford and saying, this is a great idea, what you did here. The problem is that the people telling them that don't actually use these trucks in real life for real things. They don't drive around with somebody here who's got their purse and their wallet and everything stuffed up there and their phone sticking in here and all this stuff. If you actually used this truck, like, I mean, used it, not like, you know, a car reviewer would use it. If you actually used it like I did this week and you had stuff here and you wanted to fold this down, you'd have to move everything first. You got to move it. You got to put it somewhere else, and then you can fold your workstation down. Not only is that a waste of time, but it's annoying because you move your stuff and then it's going to find its way back, and well, you got to find a place to put it, and it should have been there in the first place. And this is a junk holder. This whole console, everything about it is ridiculous and stupid. There's no wireless charger or anything in this one. Maybe some of them have it. I don't know. See, it already holds. I thought I got all the junk out, collecting stuff already. This is a design travesty. It looks good on the surface, maybe to some people, and oh, this is a great design feature, and there's wonderful things about it. You can maybe put something here, your laptop, or... No, it doesn't actually work that way in real life. It doesn't function the way you think it does. So these car reviewers telling Ford or whoever's designing this stuff that this is a good idea have no clue what they're talking about. And this is what I mean about real-world reviews versus car reviewers and people who think they know what they're talking about with these modern cars. This is ridiculous. It doesn't work for what it's intended to do. And if it does, then you aren't truly using the vehicle. You're maybe using it as an occasional vehicle or anything. You're not actually using it for work like, you know, a working person does. And if that's the case, it's fine. It's a luxury vehicle, but this is a truck. It's supposed to be a truck. Ford wants it to be a truck. It's not intended to be this luxurious thing. It's supposed to be also, you know, usable for work or things like that. I mean, it's a pickup truck. It's supposed to be a pickup truck. That's what Ford wants it to be. Well, make up your mind. Is it a pickup truck or isn't it? You know, those things don't go together, is what I'm saying. And there's going to be some people probably who are going to get mad at me for saying that, but that's the honest truth. This glove compartment is ridiculously small for what it is. I don't quite understand why it's so small. I got all this wasted space, and then they had to compromise and add more space up here. Well, just would have been easier to design it, you know, into maybe one compartment, or this is just more stuff to break and go wrong having this switch over here. Why can't you just make this go up and down just by... Anyway, more things to break. It's supposed to be an expensive truck, but as you can see, the seats stain easily. Maybe they clean easily, I don't know, but too many door pockets to catch junk. Yeah, let's take a look under the hood. So under the hood, we got the 5.0 liter V8. Much better, in my opinion, than the twin turbo V6 because it's simpler, less parts, gets about the same fuel economy in real world use. I got 24 miles per gallon driving this thing for a week average, and if I would have driven even more like an old man, I probably could have gotten even better gas mileage. I don't know why they left like a foot between the radiator and the front of the engine. I'm sure it makes it easier to work on the front of the engine, but when you want to work on the back, like most truck engines and car engines these days that are rear-wheel drive, it's shoved way back up under the cowl. Although they did leave a lot of room to work on it. So probably if I had to get to most of the stuff, it'd be a little difficult on this side because of the electrical stuff, but you could. Not terrible on that side. You can get to the coil packs and things. A little bit of a pain over there, but all in all, everything is accessible and doesn't appear to be too hard to work on, but that would have to be revealed by actually working on it. Those of you who have actually worked on these, I'm sure you'd have real-world experience on that, so... Well, I can't really speak to that. All I can speak of for that is what I'm looking at. Washer fluid, looks like things are easy to get to. Oil fill, I don't know, I mean these oil dipstick back there, hard to reach, but you know, not much harder in any old vehicle either. So they left lots of room between the radiator and the front, and I'm sure there's crash considerations and crumple zones and things, design things and reasons they did that, but I would have preferred to have it pulled forward a little bit more to have it more accessible and easy to work on, but that's just me. Either way, in its present form, this is acceptable design. So I left enough room to work on things and get to things, at least from up here. I don't know what it looks like underneath, but for the most part, it appears to be good design. So good job, Ford. You get the seal of approval from me on that. Not actually what I expected to see under that hood. I expected it to be a lot worse. You look at this hood isn't tremendously long for a truck these days, and I expected to see a lot more things crammed in there and less space and accessibility than what is actually there. So I'm actually quite impressed with that. Packaging, drivetrain packaging, seems good from a quick overview. So let's talk about the blind spots in this truck. So these mirrors are not good. I don't know why they, in the sake of design, they cut this triangular portion out. Anyway, it's annoying. I mean, the shape of the truck kind of goes like that, so if you angle your mirror according to the shape of the truck, sure, it follows the shape of the truck, but there's a huge blind spot the way I have these mirrors adjusted. I like to see just a hair of the truck in my mirror, and that's what I have right now. I may not have them adjusted out far enough, I don't know. But, I mean, I like to be able to see the side of the truck as a reference. Anyway, there's a big blind spot, and you can't fix that blind spot by turning your head because the B-pillar and the headrest block your view. So you maybe have a little bit of gun slit there, but it still doesn't do much. This direction, sure, it's pretty decent, but you still got a big pillar back there and lots of stuff here, and there's lots of stuff blocking your view. That's standard for most pickups these days, but that was a really big pillar for, well, any pickup in my opinion. Anyway, I don't like the blind spots. When you're looking out the front of the truck, you can see, you know, a little bit of hood bulge and everything, but you can't even remotely tell really where the front of the truck is. You got this enormous pillar over here and all of this. You can't really see out tremendously well. Same thing over there, a lot of view obscured. The rear view mirror is, well, I mean, it's not great for much. In the week I drove this truck, I ended up using this rear view mirror very little. It's just, it's not good for much, and you end up, you know, seeing your backup camera and your side mirrors more, and I barely even use the backup camera, so I mostly relied on the side mirrors. This thing, I mean, if you see it, I mean, you're looking, it's a very small window, you've got headrests in the way, and your tailgate, the back of the truck and the tailgate sticks up really far. It's annoying. Sure, you can see into the truck bed a little bit, but I would rather see what's behind me. But you can access the camera at any time, even if it's, you know, anyway. In this edition, the smaller ones have a smaller, or probably the work trucks and everything have a smaller screen, but you get the idea. So let's talk about the surfaces and everything in this truck. This would be a horrible work truck because these surfaces they've got lots of texture, which is great if you're in a luxury vehicle, but not for a truck. You know, if this is intended for work, which I'm sure this may not be, but if all the F-150s are this way and the work trucks, especially the handle up here where you're going to get lots of wear and tear and, you know, dirt and grease that you want to be able to easily clean, you don't want a textured surface here for it to dig into and make it hard to clean. That's horrible. And here on the door, now I was driving the other day and you see this chrome strip here, and there's chromes on the buttons, chrome strips on the buttons and stuff here. And in the center console, there's chrome strips and chrome on this button and the shifter. The sun was coming in down through the top of the windshield, because that's, you know, I was driving and that's what the sun does, and it was literally blinding me, reflecting off these chrome surfaces. So I tried to shift my head this way and it's shining off of these chrome surfaces and just blinding me. And even with shades on, it was annoying. And like this ring around here, it's just, it doesn't take much to just shoot right into your eyeballs, and it's just poor design. One thing that's great is the trailer controls. I absolutely love this. I mean, I think all trucks should have integrated trailer brake controllers. Just a side note. So the headlight switch. So I'm of the firm opinion that if you're sitting here in the driver's seat and you look around, you should be able to see the headlight switch somewhere, anywhere. In American cars, it's usually mounted over here somewhere, whether, you know, on the stalk or over here where you can see it. But it's way down here. You got to tilt your head to the side to see it and figure out the mode. And then you just have symbols. But when you're driving, you got to take your attention away from the road, shift down here, figure out what in the world you're doing, mess with this. I mean, it does come up here, but you're not expecting it to necessarily if you've never driven this truck before, so you got to shift down here. It's just a minor design annoyance. You know, it does come up on the screen when you turn it, but yeah. And speaking of this gauge cluster, if you're going to go to all the work to put a screen in here, you should make it a little bit more customizable. There's not much you can do. You know, you can go in here and set your trip odometer. You can turn off that. There's a towing screen you can bring, or, you know, you can set your settings up here. This bottom never really changes, other than if you have your nav feature running, it'll give you a little feature for the next turn or whatever there. Digital speedometer and all that stuff. That's fairly, you know, standard. But really all you can do up here, there's not much you can do to customize it. You can turn off this. You can turn this calm screen on, or you can turn your trip on when you're driving, and that's about it. You know, you can pull up this stuff and everything, but you really want your idle hours and engine hours and all that stuff up when you're driving. You can't I mean, you can like switch a couple gauges or whatever, but you can't rearrange them or do much. And honestly, there's not much point having this huge digital screen here when you can't customize much of it. I mean, you could probably save money by just making half this stuff not a digital display. In the effort to make trucks more affordable, this isn't helping, is what I'm saying. This big screen, absolutely ridiculous, a huge distraction while driving. I hate it. This shifter is an absolute travesty of design. So there's this. I made a short on this, and I had about 50-50 split on people agreeing with me or disagreeing, and, you know, some raunchy comments to boot, but this is ridiculous. Just put it on the column where it belongs, or, you know, you could even put buttons up here very easily. The space is there. You know, it's not even symmetrical side to side. There's plenty of space for buttons. You don't need this big plastic shifter, and some people were saying, well, it's for security or whatever. This cheap plastic piece of junk is for security? Yeah, I don't think so. I could easily get that up with a screwdriver in 3 seconds. And you never use it while you're driving. Once you put it in drive or whatever, then it's there. And of course, once you're in drive, you can't shift it down. It won't do anything. It's only when you're parked. People are saying, well, yeah, you know, you use this as a workstation or whatever. Well, there's plenty of workspace here. You can't get over this, and it doesn't need to be there in the first place. If you need to fold it down, just put it up on the column where it belongs. If you even have this feature, you're admitting that this is a poor design. This whole center console is annoying. Yeah, there's lots of storage space, all that, whatever, you know, completely unnecessary. It just catches more junk when you have huge door pockets over here and everything, and you know, your significant other gets in and just immediately starts to fill this up. That's the way it goes, and it's a junk catcher. Great features here, love it. This is kind of ridiculous, doesn't need to be there. Doesn't need to have this fancy button and stuff. There's so much stuff on this truck that is just more stuff to break. And this is why trucks are so expensive. If they would pull off most of these features, then they could save a ton of money and make trucks more affordable for the rest of us. And this isn't a base work truck, it's not. But a lot of these features are still on the base work truck. I had to turn the AC off for this, and it's sweating me out. I want to talk about the steering wheel. I'm severely disappointed in the steering wheel. When Ford truck steering wheels came out in '97, they had kind of the big, you know, central section, and it wasn't tremendously comfortable, but you could still work around it because they didn't have this big, bulky, beefy thing. I'd like to think I have normal sized hands for an American or whoever drives these trucks or whoever they're marketed for. And there's no comfortable way for me to hold this steering wheel. I can't get my hands around it. I've driven this thing for almost a week now, and every time I try to drive it for longer periods, my hands start to cramp up. There's no comfortable way to hold it. What I end up doing is this, and it doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel right in my hands. I can't even get, like, I can't hold it like this because I can't hold it like this. There's no, so you end up holding it here at 10 and 2, you know. But they have these sport bulges like they do in race cars, and that just makes it even worse. So then you end up holding it up here, and that's not comfortable at all. The only comfortable part of it is to hold it down here. Who wants to steer their truck entirely like this? Maybe if you're on the highway, but it does get annoying. I like to actually hold my steering wheel with 2 hands, and it's terrifically annoying. There's too many buttons, too much space. This is just, it's a horrible design. It's too big. And I understand, big steering wheels, big, thick, beefy steering wheels are all the rage now. And I hate every bit of it. They're annoying, they're hard to hold, they're not comfortable for me. And I know this is just gonna sound like, you know, old man rants at cloud, but they're not comfortable. I can't get around the fact they're not comfortable. I've tried to adapt to them, and I absolutely hate them. No matter what I do, I hate them. It's like driving a normal steering wheel with one of those big bulky covers on it that I can't stand either. It's absolutely huge and enormous and bulbous, and it just, yeah. Can't do it. It's tremendously annoying. I would think after all this time, Ford design would have come up with a better steering wheel, and I feel like we're going backwards because previous Ford steering wheels, the previous models, I've driven them occasionally, you know, for short periods, and they weren't like this. They weren't, you weren't searching for a place to hold it or how to hold it, and it's just tremendously annoying. Yeah. So I just want to make a comment on the interior that occurred to me while I was filming this. Just every time I touch something or look at something or whatever, it's not a cheap truck. These are, you know, maybe 60,000 or something like that, roughly. I don't know. I'm just spitballing there, but everything in this seems to be designed to give an illusion of quality, but they didn't do a very good job on actually fulfilling any sort of quality end of it. Squeaky plastics that, although they're not squeaky now, will be in a couple of years as things get taken apart to fix things behind them and maintenance and put back on, and as things get old and sit in the heat and the cold and heat cycles and back and forth and that sort of thing. This interior is going to be tremendously squeaky over time. In a few years is what I project anyway. Things like this cheap shifter that shouldn't even be here. There's no good reason for this to be here. This is just a pretend. This is to pretend to give an illusion of something, and I don't know if it's quality or pretend that this is a car or something, but this is ridiculous. Something else that's ridiculous and I find incredibly, absolutely just stupid is this trailer backing here. You're supposed to hook your trailer up and then use this to steer the truck as you're backing up. You put it in reverse and then you can steer. For those people who haven't learned to use a steering wheel while backing a trailer, and this is one of those things, if you're spending this much money on this truck, you've obviously got more money than brains, especially if you're going to spring for this feature because you haven't learned how to use a steering wheel when backing a trailer. And you can make fun of me and criticize me for all you want for that, but if you haven't learned yet that when you're going in reverse, you steer the opposite direction of the way you want the trailer to go, well, you just need to take some time to learn how to back a trailer, and then you won't have to spring the extra money for this ridiculous feature that has no reason to exist. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's nice for stupid people, but, you know, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people who criticize me for saying that, but you know what? I'm just going to say it. It's not that hard to back a trailer. Just learn how to do it. So when I say the illusion of quality, one of the things I'm talking about is this gauge cluster. And it's kind of ridiculous because it's got this huge screen in the middle that, well, it wouldn't have to be there. You could just make a little screen instead. The gauges don't have to be digital. There's lots of things in there that you can't change or don't change, that it's just there to give an illusion of, you know, something that isn't. You can't really customize it. There's no reason for it to be there. You've already got 2 analog gauges, your tach and your speedometer, and there's no reason to make some digital and some analog other than the fact that you can. If you can make them all digital, then why did you leave these 2 analog? or if you wanted to show how expensive this thing is supposed to be, make them all digital, and then you don't have to pay for these analog gauges. Maybe they're more expensive, but if one is more expensive than the other, why are you mixing and matching? Do them all one way or one all the other way. Commit is what I'm saying. That they're trying to give an illusion, but it's not working. It's I feel like they're trying to fool stupid people. Kind of the same like all these massive buttons on the steering wheel. Half these buttons don't do anything. Like this big button that's supposed to shut off the lane keep assist. It's supposed to bounce you back and forth between the lane lines if you drift a little bit. It kind of nudges your wheel back over. There's no reason to turn this off on the wheel. I've driven it for a week and I never had a reason to turn it off. In rain and everything, I had all kinds of conditions and I never needed to turn it off. I never needed a steering button on the steering wheel. It's just something to break. They had a space there and they wanted to put a button and give the illusion of quality by getting more functionality for what you're paying, when in reality it's unnecessary functionality. It doesn't need to be there. Things like this tailgate popper button. Like what? You're too lazy to walk around the back of your truck to pop the tailgate? Or if you're opening the tailgate anyway, you're going to be over there so you can press the tailgate button. I don't understand it. Again, just something to add cost and something else to go wrong. There's just a ton of little things on this truck like that I don't understand. Like this, there's a button on the headlights here. I don't know what that does, and I've been driving it for a week and I still haven't figured out what it does. It doesn't turn them off, because to turn them off, you turn this up to the top. That's how you turn them off. I don't get it. One thing I have noticed, Ford has not found a solution to the problem of sliding over here and getting the seat ripped because of this intersection with plastic and the thinness as it gets mashed down into the surface here and everything as you slide in and out. You can see it's starting to wear here, and eventually this will be ripped, as all modern trucks get. You'd think with all the design time they had, they would have figured out something, some kind of solution for that. Every truck, Ford, Chevy, no matter what, through the years has always had that problem. I mean, it goes all the way back to however far back you want to go. Square bodies, you slide in, you always get that ripped up side seat. I mean, come on, engineers, there's got to be a way to fix that. Reinforce the seat in that point, or stop putting these plastic things here that they can get mushed down into and rip snorted around there and result in extra wear and tear. There has to be a solution for that, but apparently we'd rather waste our time on stupid engineering decisions like this shifter instead of solving real problems. So one thing I don't like about actually driving this door, when you're sitting here, your elbow, it kind of, well, for me anyway, this is too far out. The door is too far out from the seating position, and sometimes I like to rest my arm up here. Well, it's not comfortable. None of these positions were comfortable for me. Now that's going to vary obviously based on who you are and how big your elbows are and whatnot, but just in my case, again, that's something else that all they had to do was make the armrest curve out a little bit or something, and just a small design consideration that this is supposed to be a luxury vehicle basically, and for $60,000 I would expect a little bit more level of comfort basically. So there's no manual handle to get this tailgate down. You got to press the button. That's not a good thing in my opinion, because it's just more stuff to break. As soon as that little electric popper or motor in there goes bad, or if your battery's dead, you can't put your tailgate down until you charge it or hook something up. Just an extra annoyance in my book. Going up in here, I noticed, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I can see light down through here, the side bed panel. I don't know, it's just like they slapped this bed panel in, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. But again, I would expect more for my money for an expensive truck like this, but I'm sure it'll hold up just fine. It's not mine, so I don't care. Anyway, tailgate's lightweight, has the extra assist features to get it up and all that stuff, so it's not hard to shut and all that usual stuff. Trailer hitch, towing stuff. This is great, and again, I think all trucks should have this, but this isn't a work truck. I don't think you're ever going to use it as a work truck. Haul that big screen TV home from the electronics store, that's about it. These wheels and tires are absolutely ridiculous on any vehicle, let alone a truck. 275 60 R20s. Good grief. It's a two-wheel drive sport model, and you know, people buy it for that. I get that. Here's the thing with that. If this is a luxury vehicle, there's some things in there that are absolutely stupid and ridiculous and definitely not luxury, like just poor design features that I would be ashamed to put in any luxury vehicle that I designed, like that fold down shifter. I mean, that's just idiotic. That's not luxury, that's just stupid design. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if it's a luxury vehicle, you did a bad job. It's not real luxury, it's just kind of fake, illusory, trying to be luxury. And if it's a work truck, you failed in that too. But I'm looking for features like clean, easy. I'm looking to not pay for extra things that are stupid and are just going to waste my time and waste space in the vehicle. I'm looking for good value, which means a lot of these electronic things that are not going to wear well over time, things like that. Those are things that you don't look for in a work truck. So it doesn't do good as a work truck, and it doesn't do good as a luxury truck. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, are you trying to hit a middle ground here? Because it's just, it's kind of cheap in both regards. You know, it doesn't do well on the luxury end, and it doesn't do well on the work truck end. Nothing about this truck is practical. Not the price, the wheels, the tires, electronic gizmos, all the things like that. That's not practical. About the only thing that's practical about this is the 5-liter engine and the 10-speed transmission, and you know, the trailer towing hookups for, you know, the built-in. In fact, I think that's a factory hitch, even part of the towing package, and the you know, the wiring for the trailer lights and brakes and the integrated brake controller. Those are practical. So from that end, you have some practical features, but then you have a whole ton of extra junk that you're going to be paying for. And if you're buying this as a work vehicle, then you've got too much money and you're probably overcharging your customers. Just a joke, but in all seriousness, this is not a work truck from a working man's perspective, I'm just saying. So a really big thing I don't get about these trucks and most modern vehicles in general these days is that corporate America is just crazy. If they think that any normal person can afford things like this, they want us to buy these luxury priced vehicles with all these fancy options and things, when they could easily remove those, a lot of them, and make it cheaper. And yet they want to pay people less. They don't want to pay people money, but at the same time they want to sell us these with not a lot of options that are actually low priced and affordable that we can use. And this is something that most car reviewers and magazines and, you know, automotive journalists, and I use that term very loosely, they don't address, and they refuse to address. I don't know if it's because they don't understand it, or if it's because their wages are basically paid by the automotive industry in general and the manufacturers, or if it's just because they just want to completely ignore it. The fact that most people can't afford to buy vehicles like this. Even a couple years old on the used market, these things are still just not affordable for the average person. They just don't want to make low-priced options. I think that's a big problem, and it's not that they couldn't. I'm going to use as an example the sound deadening and quality on this thing that I'm going to assume is in all of the F-150s, because it would cost too much to change it, like the triple door seals. I would think 2 door seals would be enough for a low-priced, you know, vehicle, but they have to put them in the higher-priced vehicles, so they put them in all the trucks because they don't want to make 2 versions. And I understand that that's manufacturing efficiency, but first of all, it's ridiculous to have a high-priced vehicle like this in a truck, because trucks are made to work. And second of all, it's ridiculous to have complete sound deadening when you don't need it. When you're on the road, if somebody's driving next to you, you can't even hear them. Now, that's a good thing in a luxury vehicle, but like I've said repeatedly, this is not a luxury vehicle. It's pretending to be. And so you could remove a lot of cost out of it by just simplifying some things, but the automotive industry refuses to do that, and automotive journalists support them in when they drive a vehicle. Oh, well, I can hear noises outside or something ridiculous like that, when in reality it's a truck. It's supposed to be a truck, but they never test them as a truck. Not really. So I mean, again, that's just my opinion on that, but I think it's a big problem in the industry. One thing I don't get for a luxury truck is Ford is still using this stick antenna. I mean, if they wanted to look sporty and everything, I would think they would go with a shark fin or something more fancy. But I'll show you the key fob. This huge, immense thing of a key fob, it hurts my brain. I mean, yeah, you have to have this key insert as an emergency backup, but that doesn't take up much space. I mean, I've seen a lot of key fobs smaller than that, and this is ludicrously large and bulbous, and you never really have to take it out of your pocket anyway, so it's annoying because it just takes up a lot of room. So I really doubt that helped anyone out, because if you're going to buy one of these ridiculous vehicles, you're probably going to buy it anyway, regardless of what I have to say or my opinion. But I'm used to driving these, which are a little different. Anyway, you can laugh at me and, you know, call me outdated or whatever you want, but I prefer the old vehicles. Sure, they have some drawbacks, but in the end, this is not worth the money. That's just my opinion. Even a base model one of these is not worth the money. If you're buying it used, maybe, and you can get a good deal on a used version, yeah, but then you're dealing with all the broken electronic stuff that's expensive to replace that the last person didn't want to deal with. Whereas a vehicle like this, you can get parts anywhere for it. Not that expensive to fix it if you have a little bit of wrenching know-how. So not a good use of your money unless you have money to burn. So that's just my opinion, and as always, thanks for watching.